Welcome to the Sales Buzz. I'm Rick Ammey, your host for this exciting Brooks Group webinar. Thanks for tuning in. Today's topic is the power of a tough-minded sales team. And I'm here with Bill Brooks, CEO of the Brooks Group. Bill has been a sales consultant for 28 years. He heads the Brooks Group, an international sales and sales management consulting firm based in Greensboro, North Carolina. He has authored, count them, 18 books, including 3 national bestsellers. Once again, let's get started. I think this is going to go right to the heart of everybody that's a salesperson, and that is, why is being tough-minded so essential?
Because there is not a tougher profession, Rick, in the world than sales. And the truth is, it can set you up only to put you down. It can be physically demanding. It can be emotionally draining. It can be highly stressful. Yet there is not a profession that looks easier than sales. And it's almost like if someone is a superior performer, it doesn't look like they're doing much of anything. This tough-mindedness hit me one day. I was speaking to a college football team. And the coach had asked me to come out and speak to the team about any lessons that would help them, etc. So here are these boys, 18 to 21 years old, college schedule, tough schedule. And the first guy who had been out there to talk to them had played in the NFL. And he was talking about the hard work ethic and the discipline. And I said, I'm going to take a different tact. And then I started to give some thought to it as it relates to sales. Now think about this for a minute, Rick. One does not have to have played football or any other sport for this to be applicable, but I think it's even more so if you understand that. What I told these kids is that the biggest thing that they learn in college football is to be tough. To be tough. And I'm going to submit to you that not a lot of people are tough. They're not tough enough. I've had a recent experience with some surgery and some recovery, and one of the doctors said to me, at the risk of sounding as if I'm blowing my own horn, he said, "You're one of the toughest people I've ever seen." Well, the name of the game is I learned to be tough. I played football in college, but throughout my entire sales career and my sales management career, to make the tough decisions, to do the tough things, to go back and be resilient after someone has rejected you. To be able to withstand assaults and criticisms, to go several months without any sales, you learn to be not only physically tough, but over a period of time, it goes over to the emotional toughness and the emotional maturity that it takes to be successful.
But what makes some people not tough enough?
I think that you've got people who are risk averse. I think you've got people who are security driven. I think you have some people who don't like to make a decision, and so what happens is they always err on the side of conservatism. I'm going to suggest to you that you get out of life exactly what you put into it, and part of that is, are you willing to hang it out there? Are you willing to go after it? Are you willing to take some risk? Are you willing to put it on the line? Because what I'm going to tell you is, if you can train yourself to do this, you will become a more aggressive salesperson. For example, you will not be afraid to say, okay, they didn't like me, but somebody else did. They didn't buy, but somebody else is out there that's going to buy. All they've done is temporarily put me aside. I'm going to get back in there. I'm going to make this sale. And the problem with most people is that they're somewhat timid, for whatever reason.
Well, and this is begging the question, it seems to me, is what's the ideal personality type to be a good salesperson?
Good question. What it really does is it boils down to what they're selling, to whom they're selling it. As you know, Rick, we do job benchmarks here, and we can actually determine what is most critical based on each company's capacities, what they're looking for, and then we can measure candidates against those capacities. But what I'm going to share with you are what I've seen to be, over the years, the most common traits that we've seen. One of the most common traits is that most really strong salespeople, frankly, are driven by financial gain. Okay? They also want to control their own destiny and the destiny of others, and they're theoretically tuned to learning things. In other words, they want to learn new skills, they want to learn new products, how to apply the products, they want to take on new accounts. So here's what it is in a nutshell. They are driven by financial gain and practicality, they want to control their own destiny and the destiny of other people, and they're willing to learn. The other thing we've found out is they don't major in minors. They're not so consumed. I'll give you an example. A lot of people who are salespeople say, I wouldn't want to be an accountant. Well, somebody with that critical, analytical kind of a personality has trouble selling, because what happens is they tend to overanalyze everything. The best, most effective salespeople we've seen are those that are dominant and direct and persuasive, somewhat systematic, but not overly anal, if you will. The other thing is they have the capacity for self-management, goal direction. They can manage themselves, they can manage their time, and they're goal-directed to the point that they want to get after it and get it done. Those have been the most common traits. The other thing I've seen with the most successful people, Rick, is they have what we call emotional maturity. They can bounce back. They're resilient. They're respondent. They don't cast aspersions. They don't blame anyone else. I'll make a real honest appraisal here. I have no time for risk-averse people. Not if we're going to put them in some kind of business, particularly sales.
And I can't imagine why somebody without those personality traits would try to become a salesperson, frankly. It seems to me to run counter to their very personality type. For example, somebody who might be bookish, want to be an accountant, want to be a behind-the-scenes kind of person. I can't imagine why somebody like that would want to be a salesperson to begin with. And yet you were saying on another one of the webinars that you believe that 75% of salespeople probably ought not to be salespeople to begin with.
Yeah, in the first place.
Yeah, right. So why? So what? So are some of these people that have the wrong personality types? I guess they must be getting into the sales.
Well, let me answer that in a couple of ways.
Yeah.
Here's one way. The truth is, self-awareness is not a universal talent. I mean, the truth of the matter is everybody is not as self-aware as those people who spend a lot of time in this kind of thing might think they are. So unless someone analytically measures you to determine what are your values, what are your talents, what are your behaviors, what happens is the old Joe Harry window, you've got a blind spot and you say, well, I and you look for it. It's kind of like a psychic, and you don't know enough about yourself. The second thing is, if they don't know about the sales game, they don't know what it is until they get into it, and then it's too late, and then they're really at a loss. And then some of them say, well, you know what, I'm going to go out and start my own business. Well, if you're going to do that, you better be a salesperson first and a business person second. Because the world's filled full of people who had a great mousetrap that nobody knew it was there.
It seems to me that if you're going to be a successful salesperson, much as that you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, business leader, you've got to burn to want to do this. It seems to me. Am I right about that?
Oh yeah, John Wesley.
You really got to want to do this.
John Wesley said one time, when I am giving a sermon, I'm on fire, and people come to watch me flame. Mm-hmm. The guy was totally passionate about it. You have got to be passionate about sales, or you will not be successful, or as successful as you could be. Now, pay plans have a lot to do with that. If somebody gets this X salary, and it doesn't make any difference what they do, the really good salespeople say, I want to be paid for what I earn. You know what I mean? I want to be able to go do it and then pay me for it. Now, tough-mindedness is critical because of all of the ups and downs you get in sales. Mm-hmm. That's the basic reason for it.
Now, we've been talking about individuals, but unfortunately, of course, organizations and sales managers have to deal with teams, whole groups of people that may or may not have been selected by them. And so we want to look at 6 key questions about whether your team is tough-minded enough and how to make them tougher. The first of those questions is, what is tough-mindedness? And I think you pretty much defined that.
Yeah, tough-mindedness. I mean, think about this, Rick. Over your life, which is fairly long at this point, I'm right there with you.
I was waiting for that part. Okay.
Who do you know, perhaps not by name, or describe, if you would, somebody that you would consider to be really, really tough? A tough person, tough-minded individual.
You. And I'm not just saying that because we're here and because I know, but mainly because I've known you for years, and that you get out there, you grind it out, you do what you need to do to make the business grow, to get you drive the people who work for you to be successful. I've seen you do presentations and you push. I know the kind of schedules that you keep where you go from this place on Monday to that place on Tuesday to that place on Wednesday and that place on Thursday. And to my way of thinking, that somebody would have to hit you over the head with a sledgehammer to knock you down. Now, I'm not doing this to blow smoke, but I think that you are the best example that I have right off the top of my head of somebody who is tough. And it sounds like I'm sucking up to you and we're doing an infomercial, and I don't mean it like that. But you are strong, and you don't strike me as the kind of person that if you got a negative reaction to somebody you were trying to pitch for a sale, that wouldn't roll over you. You'd turn that sucker around. You'd find a way to get back at it and get back on the horse and win.
You know, and that's very kind of you to say, Rick. I appreciate you saying that. I've worked very hard to be tough-minded, but I can tell you, I learned it in 4 or 5 places. I learned it from my father, who was in sales, who faced rejection and difficulty, and I'd see him be resilient. I learned it from my uncles, who were all thoroughbred horse trainers, self-employed, would lose races, and then had to go back and win the races to get some money. I learned it as a college football player and a high school football player. My high school football coach was a World War II vet, very tough guy, played for the Washington Redskins. In college, I learned it. In my fraternity, I learned it. I learned it in the military, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not so sure, if you don't have a predisposition for it, that it can be taught as much as the lessons can be gleaned and then exercised from the predisposition.
And that was the question I was going to ask you, which is, can tough-mindedness be taught?
It can be fine-tuned, but I'm not so sure it can necessarily be taught. Now, that means someone can be tougher than they would have been if they hadn't been taught. But if they don't have those values and attributes and behaviors to begin with, and the life experience that does that, you're not going to transform them. Now, what I'm suggesting to our audience, to our sales managers, especially watching this, you want to build as tough, as strong, as a tough-minded team as you possibly can, because you can't win in today's competitive market with people who are not tough-minded. Now, here's one of the things I do with our sales force, and we've got 5 full-time salespeople here. When people first come to work here, they go, I can't believe he talks to these people like this. Now, I tell them I love them and how much I appreciate what they do, and I think everybody knows that. But if there's an issue, I will bring up the issue in front of everybody. Some people say, you should never embarrass anyone in public. You don't go out of your way to do it, but if you've tried to do it privately and it doesn't seem to work, there comes a time when you have to do it. And let me be really frank with you. If that person goes in the tank, they're not tough-minded enough. They're going to go in the tank in the environment in which they work. They're going to get out there on the street, and they're really going to go into the tank.
So what does a sales manager do? Okay, the sales manager comes in. Let's say he or she has been on the job 6 months. They inherited a sales team of 5, 6, 7 people. He or she has got 3 really tough people that, like we've been talking about. She's got a couple who are right on the fence, and she's got 2 who are just not carrying their load. What does she do? We know she's got 3 that are winners. She's got 2 that are on the fence that maybe need to be tougher. Can she toughen the people that are close but not there? And what does she do about the people who are not tough at all?
You know what's interesting about this question? Just yesterday, Kevin Reinert and I were on a seminar, teleseminar, with this same topic. We had 15 sales managers on the phone, and we said to them, give us the number of salespeople you have, the number of superior performance of that group. So someone would say, I have 10, I have 3 superior performers. Another one
just
would say,
the question
6.
I was asking.
What you just did.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an interesting answer. And part of that is, those that aren't performing, don't spend an exorbitant amount of time with them. They're going to have to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. And you're going to find out real fast if they're tough-minded enough to do that. In other words, if they can't reconcile it, come up with their own answers, work on their own solutions, figure out how to get better, it's not going to happen. Here's the other part of it. You have to be conscious as the sales manager that you're not going to spend 80% of your time with those 2 because you're throwing good time to bad. Remember the old statement, the Lord helps those that help themselves? Really peak performers, and I've said this on other webinars, they approach their job as if they own the business. So they're Rick Amy Incorporated. They take ownership, they're accountable, they're proactive. Now, if you take people like that and you spend more of your time with your peak performers and the balance with the ones that are the average ones, the other ones are just going to fall by the wayside, or they're going to get tough-minded enough to step up. But it's up to them.
But it seems to me, if I'm hearing you correctly, it seems to me then that the key is really in the hiring. And that if you...
That's it, Rick.
I mean, the point is if you don't hire, say your sales team is 5 people. If you don't hire 5 tough-minded people, you're in a world of trouble. Because then you've got 3 tough-minded people and 2 that are just sort of there. It's just a matter of time before those people are going to be gone. So, but the thing here's the thing that bothers me though about this. From a management leadership point of view, it seems to me that a leader and a manager still ought to be able to elevate. And we're talking about how to make your salespeople better. You ought to be able to elevate your staff to be stronger. But I'm not sure you're telling me that you can actually teach people to be tough-minded. You can teach them better sales skills.
I believe you
can teach them. They can be better, and they can be more skillful. But you seem to be telling me you can't make them more tough-minded. They either are or they are not. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. And that is a function of their values, their behaviors, their talents, things that have happened that they've been involved with long before they came to you. The fact you and I are the same vintage, Rick. I was kidding you earlier, but the fact that when I graduated from college and went to graduate school, they dropped the deferments. Now you had to face the draft, and you had to make a decision, and you had to go into the military, and you knew quite likely where you were going to go in that military. Looking around you and seeing 4 or 5 good friends of mine killed in Vietnam, not come back. I mean, these are things that formulate your life. Now, I really believe, and I'm going to go on a soapbox for 30 seconds, that in our society, we have made people not very tough-minded. Because now we've created this thing that this is owed to me, that I don't have to earn it, that accountability is not important, that commitment and discipline aren't required because in the final analysis, life is not fair, so we're going to help you if you fall by the wayside. It's going to become harder and harder for sales managers to find tough-minded people. I'm telling you, it is the cornerstone of sales performance, and it's the cornerstone of the entire performance. And as the society becomes softer, it becomes more difficult to identify those who can perform. Now, here's the interesting question. The problem is, if you have a high level of empathy and you're an optimist, you always believe that you can bring these people up. Well, here's what happens. You start to work with these people and work with these people, the bar will go up. Now what will happen is the people down here, if they're worth a tinker's daggum, are going to want to jump up, right? And if they're not going to be tough-minded enough. And what you need to do is if you're not doing this, Mr. or Ms. Sales Manager, you need to publish your sales results. So everybody sees them every month. You got a top, you got a bottom, and if somebody's always on the bottom, sit down, have a serious talk. I'm not saying you don't help them at all, but don't spend the predominant amount of your time with those people. Because here's what's going to happen. They're going to make it or they're not, and ultimately what's going to happen is they're going to be ostracized by the other people. And what happens is it will eliminate itself.
So to wrap this up, create a team of tough-minded people. And the creating of the team probably comes mostly in the hiring process. And if you don't have the people on the team who are tough-minded, you're going to have to get rid of them and find somebody who is.
And hire more carefully. See, here's what happens. We believe that when people hire people, salespeople, they look at 3 things. They look at sales skills, they look at job skills. They don't look at personal skills. And so what happens is they'll hire someone from the industry because they've got experience in media or whatever that industry happens to be. They'll presume they have sales skills. The truth of the matter is their personal skills, their values, their behaviors, their talents will determine if they will even use those other 2 skills. So what happens, you see, is you got to look at the background, the history. The only people I want around me are people who are tough-minded. Let me give you an example. One of our salespeople sold over the road straight commission for more than 20 years. You better be tough-minded to drive all over the place with no guarantee of being paid. Okay? Another one of our salespeople was actually involved in the management promotion of the PGA tours. Okay? He was on the road. He was an athlete. One of our salespeople was a college football coach for 22 years. He coached at 5 different universities. He knows tough-mindedness. I spent 14 years as a college football coach myself. And so what happens is there's no place else in the world where you can work 100 hours a week and lose, and then you're reading the paper that you're a bum.
Jeez,
so when some prospect says to me, we're not interested. Now, here's the other interesting thing wrapping up that we have to be able to share, and this is important. Salespeople have to believe in their own heart of hearts that what they do is of great value, that they provide extremely powerful solutions to people. They have to be trained how to determine what solutions they're after and deliver those solutions. Because now you externalize it. You don't take it as a personal affront. But if somebody doesn't believe in their product, believe in their price, believe in what they're doing, even if they're tough-minded, they have this secondary doubt in their mind. I'm going to suggest to you, Rick, that sales is much more emotional than it is even intellectual. And you have to, as a sales manager, get people who are emotionally mature and intellectually tough, and yes, physically tough, to be able to succeed in today's marketplace.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for joining the Sales Buzz. This has been a Brooks Group production.